You're listening to PDR Tool Talk, all about PDR stories, tools, and techniques.
For the thousands in attendance, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hey everybody, thanks for joining another episode of PDR Tool Time Revolution. I'm your host, Vince D'Alessandro, Daniel Grom, John Rustrom. What? What did I do?
That's what you always do to me, so I did it to you.
Bastard.
What did you always shake your head every time I do an intro? You go like this, and it throws my timing off. So I did it back to you.
Asshole!
You guys are funny. This is so entertaining.
3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, thanks for joining another episode of PDR Tool Time Revolution. I'm your host, Vince D'Alessandro, Daniel Grom, John Renstrom, and special guest on this episode will be Paul Kordon? Paul Kordon. Paul Kordon, the big man Paul Kordon is back on the scene. We're going to interview him. We're going to talk to him about all the hail that he's been doing lately. He's been off the scenes. In the meantime, Daniel, John, how you guys doing?
How you guys doing?
Oh, I'm doing great.
That's what I asked you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
I'm happy to be here.
Paul, it's so good to see you, man. You're alive. You're well.
I know. You're gone. It's like Paul is all over Facebook, and then for 2 months, it's like deserted Paul.
Nothing.
Gone. Well, I guess that's what Hail does to you. I'm learning too. So there you go. Apparently, it's hard to text while you're fixing hail dents all day long.
Oh, sure.
It is.
So.
Yes.
So we've been trying for months, trying to get Paul on, trying to get him scheduled. We finally nailed him down.
And I landed the deal. I'm proud to say it. John, in for the rescue.
I had already made the commitment to Daniel because I do have a very strong relationship with Daniel, but John came in and cinched it, and he solidified it.
Double
closer.
And well, if anybody can clinch and cinch, it's the John.
The John.
There you go. You did it.
I think we got a show title.
We might have to do multiple trips to the John.
Paul
happen.
Kordon cinched. Not sure what that means. Take it how you want.
All right, so Daniel, you said you've had a great week. What are you doing this week? Last week you were buried in some big stuff. What's up?
You know what? I honestly, I gotta say thank you to both you guys.
You're welcome.
I had a record month last month.
Nice.
And I hit a number that I didn't think I would be able to hit. It was really up because of you two guys. One, Mobile Tech RX, Paul just changing my psychology. I love talking to Paul because Paul always challenges me on my psychology. I was talking to him a few weeks back, and he goes, "Yeah, I just did a motorcycle tank." And I go, "Yeah, how much?" And he's like, $1,200. And I'm like, "What?"
It was 17.
Huh?
Almost 1,800.
How much?
It was almost 1,800 on that tank.
1,800.
It was almost 1,800.
Holy
Really?
shit.
I mean it.
Wow.
Oh crap.
You just remember the number wrong. It's okay. You remember the story though.
So I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, send me the picture of the tank, Paul. Let me look at it. And it's like a dent that would take me a half an hour. I'm like, oh man, I got up. So I get this estimate sent to me. It's one I kind of didn't want to do. It was an older tank, and it was pretty messed up. And so I threw out a $940 estimate out on it just because I didn't want to do it. Sure enough, he goes, "Yeah, go for it." And I'm like, okay. He's changing my psychology, And then Mobile Tech RX, on the other hand, just the people coming into my shop, just having Mobile Tech RX, I'm not getting any blowback. I'm not getting any arguments over my estimates because of Mobile Tech RX, because it's a printout. It's a whole different thing. Vince, I was talking to Vince, about doing estimates, and it's like, you got to stop trying to do what Mike Toledo's doing and get people in front of you. When you have a retail shop, you got to get the people in front of you to sell them on you, the shop, why you're better, we host a podcast. We have tool reviews, so we get the latest tools. We're up on things more than our competition.
I have to buy my latest tools just for the record.
No, we buy them too, man. I buy a lot of my tools. I get some free, but
I'm still not really buying any tools yet.
anyway.
No, I'm just kidding. That's what everybody thinks. They think I've given everything. I'm not. I buy some tools.
Yeah, we all buy our
buy
tools.
those. You know those red cherry caps that go on the R4 tips? I buy those all the time.
Hole plugs too, right? You're always buying hole plugs, right, Paul?
A lot of hole plugs in the retail shop.
Yes.
Can't do that.
You know, all that is from you guys. So thank you. So there's my thank you.
That's awesome, man. I'll tell you what, I really mean it when I say I really love to see dent guys when I do, because you all know my brand, the way that I think, my heart. I'm like, man, PDR is way more valuable than conventional repair, whether it's on the Hail side or the retail side. So when I hear that guys are breaking records and doing numbers that they never thought were possible before, I consider that a win for the industry. And I mean, if you directly relate that to something I've told you or done, then that makes me really super proud to be part of the industry and part of your success, you know. And I would say the same thing about Mobile Tech RX. I mean, they've been such a huge part of the success of many dent guys out there. So hey, that's awesome, and I'm happy for you, Daniel.
Thanks.
Yeah, as far as Mobile Tech RX goes, the biggest thing is and what set us apart from our competition, and we've seen this on Facebook lately. We didn't limit what you could do. We didn't limit your income possibilities in Mobile Tech RX. It's your business. Run it your way at your price. We're just there to help you document and be able to provide all of the necessary data to help back up what it is that you're charging at whatever your pricing is. And then John and Jane Q Public spend their life with their nose down in their phone and tablets. So when you're writing the estimates using a phone and tablet, they're already used to it. That magic box rules their whole world. Now it's printing out a price. They see you using the same technology that they use for everything that they do. Takes away that first level of argument of, where did you get your chicken scratch number from?
Right.
How did that number pop in your head?
Well, I'll tell you this. One of the most powerful things that I found about Mobile Tech RX, and I'm sorry guys, I didn't mean to make this a commercial. One of the best things about Mobile Tech RX is that the very thing that John said, which is they don't limit you. You guys created a platform that is as customizable as the tech needs it to be. Like I was telling a couple of guys, I'm quickly finding out that when I use Mobile Tech RX for Hail, because one of the roles that I played on the team I was working on was I ended up doing a lot of estimates. Okay, so I would write the car, and everybody was really happy with the estimates I was writing. Imagine that. But one of my favorite buttons on Mobile Tech RX is got to be the off matrix button, because as soon as that car kicks to off matrix on a panel, you know what I'm doing? I'm hitting that comparative pricing button. Actually, I'll tell you a little trick that I did. I hit the comparative pricing button. I'll do a screenshot and print it so that I don't have to keep toggling back and forth, right? Once I've got that sheet printed and it tells me what all the replacement costs are for conventional repair, then any panel that goes off matrix automatically gets that comparative price in there with a little custom note that says repairable, asking conventional repair price for PDR due to severity and volume or something like that. And then boom, it's just throwing, those basically the highest cost that you can on a panel, and it's forcing the insurance company to come to the table with their highest price, whatever that is. And that way we're really maximizing the car, especially in cases where the damage is severe on certain panels,
Sure.
Well, now tell us where you were at, where you put your theories on Hail into practice.
I just got home from about a 2-month stint in Idaho Falls, and I was working in a retail shop. So there's a guy who had been in business since 1993, had been running a really clean retail operation, very, very picky, and wanted to maintain the level of service and quality to all of his Hail customers as he had performed for his retail clients. And so he had called a few of us in specifically that had access to or were running retail shops and said, hey, here's my reputation's on the line. I want this done right. Here's what we're going to do. Here's the game plan. And we said, okay, we knew what we needed to do. And then we kind of respectively figured out who was best at what roles, who needed to be in the back just plowing through cars, and who needed to be up front writing estimates and helping with the negotiation with the insurance companies and the adjusters. And that ended up being me doing a little bit of training for their front office to teach them how to best write an estimate, best practices on processing those claims and processing the supplement requests. Yeah.
Now, Paul, did they are they hail prone? Do they normally see hail damage, or is this something that was new to them?
This was very new to them. So that business had been in business since 1993. I think I said that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And in those 25 years, this had been the first major hail catastrophe they've ever had.
Sure.
They've never had a hail cat team set up in their town. And in this case, they had, I believe, at least 3. So this was the very first time they'd been through this. And while they were very new to it and very green, they caught on pretty quickly. And we ended up getting into routine about 2 weeks in.
Sure.
But it took a lot of training and walking alongside them.
How about the cat people? They were seasoned pros though, so they kind of come in with the knowledge. What was your feelings upon getting to deal with the cat team guys like that in an area like that?
What's a cat team?
So in any given area, John, you might be able to give a better definition than I do. But from what I understand, they're specialists who are trained to go into a town where there's been a catastrophe, and they haggle your price and negotiate with you.
Over insurance guys.
Insurance adjusters, yes.
Okay. The insurance adjusters, every insurance company has what they call their cat team specialists or catastrophe specialist groups. And a lot of them aren't actually in-house employees. A lot of them are independent adjusters that subcontract. Living in RV parks, I get to meet lots of them. And they'll have magnets for their doors for several different companies. And it's whoever they happen to be working for.
Now,
So they're
John, not to interrupt you, but I found out last week in Texas, that cat adjusters, they make just as much as dent technicians, hail technicians.
Yes.
They're making a percentage off of it.
Yep. Now on some of the retail cars, I've done some insurance conventions and talked with the guys, and they can make $75 to $100 a car writing cars on car lots. So when you think about where their interest in Mobile Tech RX and why they had me come speak at them is the ability to blow through a 400 car lot in a couple of days with only 2 or 3 people.
Right.
And it's huge money. We've had lots of meetings with large insurance companies, and it's probably going to expand. A few of them don't like seeing some of the pricing that's available in Mobile Tech RX, but we don't cater to anybody. So our system is user.
Yeah, I can tell you that. I think no matter which cat adjuster you're going to talk to, they're never going to like your price because you're estimating for the max, and then and quite frankly, we were given the directive that we were going to use the DRP, the standard DRP matrix. I'm sorry, and let me not say it like that. The DRP matrix, not the standard matrix, which the DRP matrix is not quite what State Farm has or quite what Allstate has.
Yeah, but
it's a pretty good kind of medium. And I'll tell you, my opinion of the cat adjusters was they're definitely a little bit more hardened. They're a little bit more tough to negotiate with. They don't want to budge as much. I had one lady, I won't tell you where she was from, but she came in, I'm not kidding you, she came in and the first thing she said to me, I didn't even breathe a word, and she said, I don't care about your numbers. You don't care about my numbers. So go get your light and let's look at this thing together.
Nice.
And at one point in that conversation, I literally had to say to her, hey, listen, you keep telling me you don't want to fight, but you keep positioning your body language and yourself as if you want to fight. So you got to tell me now, what do you want to do? Because if you want to fight, I can fight. But if you want to work this out together, we can do it. And she softened up right there. And then she had one of the adjusters that came in after they sent her home. She at one point said to me, well, I am a professional PDR estimator. And I said, pardon me, but you are not a professional PDR estimator because you have no idea what it takes to fix one of these. You've never done it. And as someone who could say I'm a professional PDR estimator, I would tell you that I don't even get it perfect every time.
Sure.
And at one point she said to me, well, maybe you just don't need to do any more of our cars. And I said, maybe. And she turned around and stormed off. And I got all my numbers on that car.
I had an adjuster like that down in Dallas last year, and she's like, "Oh, I've been in this business for 25 years. I know it. You're just going to glue pull this dent," and it was like a giant, oversized through the body line. And I just said, "You know what? This argument's done." And I just rolled my tool cart over. I rolled my light over, and I said, "There's the glue gun. There's the glue tabs. You fix that dent, and we don't have to talk about it no more. That's done. You've got 25 years of experience. I've got 28 years. Both of us can fix this dent. You fix it, then we don't have to discuss it anymore."
And what did they do?
I got paid full conventional to not only do the conventional repairs on that fender, but to gut the next panel, blend the whole next panel, and blend the hood. I made out like a bandit, actually.
That's awesome. One thing I did notice though is and John, maybe you can speak to this, because I'm coming from a hail chasing a background. This is my very first storm, so I don't want to speak as if this is true for all storms, but I noticed there was a point in the storm where for the most part the cat adjusters all go home and it falls back on the local adjusters. And in fact, I would say that it was either 50-50 or even a greater percentage that were just going to desktop review. So in other words, they weren't even sending an adjuster out to look to reinspect. And once that happened, we just started getting stuff approved at our numbers all the time.
Yep.
So,
and desktop reviewing has gotten more and more in the last year and a half, and we're going to see that expand to a whole another level. I mean, State Farm laid off here in South Dakota, Wyoming area. They laid off all but 2, and they handle all of eastern Wyoming and western South Dakota. 2 adjusters. If you think about that, that's 600 miles of territory.
Isn't that mean they're saving the commission they have to pay those adjusters?
Exactly. They save a ton of money they have to pay.
And we get that money.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to get that money. But going back to what you said, Paul, about the local guy, that's because of rapport. And that is what the insurance company is trying to kill with the desk review, is that local rapport. When you deal with a local adjuster day in, day out on your retail business, whether you're in a hail-prone area or not, you get to know those people. They get to know you. They know whether you're a liar or if you're telling the truth. So it's easy to get your money. If you're straight up and honest at all times with them, it's easy to get your money on the local guys. Cat guys, they come in, like you said, they're kind of hardened. They're coming through the door looking for a fight sometimes. And it takes a lot of work. And then cat teams are revolving. This year, you guys sat with some long-term cat guys because there was no other storms. But in what happened in Dallas here, by the time this plays out, Dallas will be about a week old now. Cat teams will be set up. I think State Farm was sending 3 different cat teams down there. They're going to have some really big setup stuff. Those guys are going to revolve fast, and State Farm is going to move those guys fast. That's to stop that rapport with the shops. Yeah. You've got to start that fight over. Yeah, you're likely to do it just a little bit lower, versus the guy that's in.
Well, what I did a couple of weeks ago, I had to do a video chat with Allstate to get the money for the supplement. And the guy was super cool. He was in North Carolina, and I told him, "Hey, this is the first time I've ever done this." And he goes, "Yeah, no problem. Just flip your camera over, show me the damage." And I showed him the damage, and he didn't argue one thing that I showed him. And he, in fact, caught something else. He's like, "Hey, what's that little plastic trim piece down there?" I'm like, "Oh, geez, you're right." I went down there. He didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was, but he ended up, doing the research and finding it and giving it to me anyways.
Daniel, what's your experience? How much experience do you have in dealing with any insurance adjusters?
I hand that off to my secretary, Tony the Tiger. She grew up with a dad that accused her of everything. And so
she knows how to argue.
Standard response is no, we don't do that. No. Would you say no?
No discount.
It'd be no. Putting her in front of adjusters, the adjuster doesn't have a chance in hell. No way in hell.
Awesome.
It's awesome.
She will eat any adjuster up and spit them out.
And she came from a body shop industry, didn't she?
She did come from the body shop industry.
Yeah.
So
nice. So she has pretty good knowledge.
Mostly knows all of them. She sweet talks them, and I mean, I love her. I mean, she's
that's great.
So. I got it made.
Has she ever considered chasing Hail?
I ain't going to tell her about that.
She'll love it.
All right.
Yeah, headhunted. John's going to headhunt her now, and
Getting back to the adjuster thing, so I definitely noticed a difference. I think dealing with the adjusters in person was a bit more tricky, because it was especially the ones who wanted to go back and forth a little bit. You had to stay toe to toe with them. You got to kind of stick to your guns, and they stick to their guns, and then you go. At the end of the day, I said, listen, you go do what you got to do. You know what I need for it. I've already told you. And I'll look at the paperwork when you're done. And if I have to supplement again, I will. And if I have to collect from the customer, I will. Whatever the case may be. But I'll tell you, once it went back to the local adjusters and then the desktop reviews, I mean, really, it was way easier. So the CAT teams they're like a special elite team that basically comes in. They're hardened. They've been to Texas a million times. Well, some of them have been, or at least they tell you they do. And they're ready to do battle, man. That's what they do. Their job is to save that company as much money up front as they can.
So let me ask you this, Paul. So this is your first Hail season out on the road. What were you most surprised by?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, okay, so going back,
what were you not prepared for?
Okay, I have a good answer for that. So I kind of knew what to expect as far as a retail shop in Hail goes, because I dealt with that at the shop that I was running. What I was most surprised about was I thought I was going in to just be a tech. What I found out was that as a team, and by a team I mean the guys in the front office there that worked for the local company, the local techs, and then the Hail techs that had come in to support, that we were functioning more as a team and less as just a contractor. And so I needed to step up and suck it up, even though I wanted to be pushing metal, do as much work and help with the front office getting that part right, in order for the whole team to win. And it felt awkward and uncomfortable at first, because what I really wanted to be doing was pushing metal. However, we were doing a team split. And so even while I was doing estimates, I had guys that were pushing metal that were making me money during the day. So it wasn't as if I were.
That was my next question, is how did you get compensated for that?
Well,
explain to me what a team split is, because I don't know what that is.
So in this case, we had a couple of techs that were pulling all the money that we made together and splitting it 3 ways at the end of the day, whether I touched a car or not. And there were a couple of days where I wasn't pushing a dent till 4:00 in the afternoon, because we did 20 estimates that morning. And so I would be writing estimates. They'd be pushing cars. And at the end of the day, I'd look and I had made X amount of dollars because of the team that was working together. But what I also found out was that because the local company was processing the claims, that if I did not help answer their questions and negotiate with adjusters on the phone and in person when they came in, then the team wasn't going to win. And if the team didn't win, we didn't succeed as a team, I didn't succeed as an individual. So I had to kind of put on the mindset that this was not about how much I can personally push as far as metal goes. It was about how can I equip the people around me, encourage them, lead them, teach them, negotiate with the adjusters, make sure that the estimate was written right, circle dents and take pictures and email them, whatever it was that I had to do to get to the point where the insurance companies were approving cars so that the team could work on these cars and gain, a profit from it. When you get into that team and you get the right team together, it's magical. It's truly magical. But it's also one of the very hardest ones to get together. Because if you get one guy who's doing, well, wait a second, I'm doing all this and you're doing that and you got the easy job, then it all falls apart in a hurry. But a great team environment like that, where your partners recognize that even though you're not contributing to the dents repaired, you're contributing by making sure that those estimates are wrote properly and that you guys are getting the maximum amount that you possibly can on every car, is worth just as much as a rod in your hands. And sometimes it's worth more, because the old adage, the pen is mightier than the sword, still rings true today. If you're not writing a proper estimate, you're not making the proper money no matter how much you push.
Now, I've never seen Paul Kordon's work in person, but I do know he knows how to write an estimate. So I would think
Right. Doesn't matter what my work looks like. No, I'm kidding. So
I'm
here's
not real good, but I am real fast.
Let me ask you this, Paul. Now, what was your closing rate? Do you know what your closing rate was?
Ooh, that's a
Was
great
that
question.
different than these other guys? Were you able to close more? Because in a situation like that, how do you are you charging for that estimate?
Well, so we did we added an estimate fee of $50, and that was mostly the reason that we charged that was because we wanted to expedite the approval process. Okay, so I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm thinking of the I'm sorry, I was thinking of the storage fee. We use the storage fee to try to expedite the process with the insurance company. The estimate fee. Yeah, but the estimate fee, the purpose of that was basically to light a fire under the customer's butt that we are charging. If all you want is an estimate, we're charging you a $50 estimate fee that will apply towards the repair if you choose to do the repair. If all you want is an estimate, you want 30 minutes or 15 minutes of my time to write up a car correctly, then it's going to cost you $50. I would need to get the stats on the closing. I don't know. I know that we were probably the producing, I'm guessing based on what I know, the highest productivity shop in that town. But we also had a total of between 5 and 6 guys pushing at any time. And there were days where we were probably turning out, 10 cars or more, depending on, the severity of the cars that was rolling through. But I would imagine our closing, it's kind of tough to know that because it's not like a retail client who can just say, never mind, I'm going to go shop. I'm sure there were a percentage that did that. But for the most part, once we got past the point where, and we had to do a little training on this, we had to train that we can't just estimate all cars. Now, you can, but we didn't do it right at the beginning. And that was partially because they were new at it, and I wasn't in a position to be speaking into it and influencing it yet at this point. And what they did was they processed a whole bunch of cars with a preliminary estimate, but didn't make it clear that that was a preliminary estimate and it would have to have a final estimate done. And so that created a little bit of confusion. So we learned a few things from that. But once we got to the point where we said, okay, it's slow enough now that we are not going to be writing any preliminary estimates. We are writing a full and final estimate each time. And we said we are no longer estimating cars. We are going to process claims. Forget about estimating cars. That is a waste of time. We don't want customers bringing their car for just an estimate and then walk it out. I want the car and the keys on the ground with the claim. Once I have that, I'm in complete control of that process. And
So
I can hang on to that car.
Were you pulling the car around the back and then coming out to the customer and say, your car's all apart, the wheels are off, the engine's out, and we can't give it back to you until we're done?
Well, so if it were my choice at the beginning, that's what we would have done. But we ended up processing. It was just too high a volume to process everybody quickly, and we didn't want to put people on a wait list for a month just to get an estimate or anything like that. So, or to process their claim. So, at the beginning of a storm, I think, if I looking back, if I were, and here's what I'm thinking, as I'm learning all this, I'm also putting together a process and a plan specifically for retail shops. Because that's what I get a lot of calls on. A lot of people in retail situations that go, I don't know how to handle this. Well, now I'm perfecting my process for processing hail claims because I didn't have that process quite down. I'm really working the tweaks on that. What I would suggest is in a really heavy hit storm like this, where you've got a ton of volume coming through and you're writing 60 to 100 estimates a day, I would write those estimates to process that many people as quickly as possible, keep as many cars on the ground as I can, but I would make sure they knew this is a preliminary estimate. This is not a final estimate, because there were some cases where we were writing a full and final estimate that was $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 higher than the preliminary estimate. So, because you're not counting every dent, you're not looking at every oversize. You're just counting the car, quickly with the naked eye and throwing some numbers on it.
So let me ask you this then. In a preliminary, let's say the customer brings it in with the preliminary estimate. Are you then supplementing the rest of that to the insurance company?
Absolutely. Yep.
So the customer doesn't even see the final or doesn't care?
In some cases, they
They'll
don't
see the final in the final bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't care at that point, really.
Yeah.
No, they don't care because
You and the insurance company.
they're just paying their
The only thing they're
deductible.
caring about- Yep. The only thing they care about is paying their deductible and getting on. They have plans for that car. When you tell them a car is going to be done, that customer's got plans for that car 1 hour after they leave your building. You know, if you delay and backlog and don't meet that, that's when all hell breaks loose. That kind of falls into, you know, how let's discuss. You threw out the estimating fee, so let's discuss. This is a hot button topic across Facebook: free estimates.
Yeah.
I personally refuse to make the claim of free estimates. Now, if somebody asks, if I'm working in a retail shop and they come in, they say, "Do you do free estimates?" I say, "I do not charge for my estimating," but I say, we're better off working off of your insurance paperwork. Now, in Dallas, I mean, we're talking about some seasoned people. These people are used to getting cream. I've had the joy of working there 3 years now. It's a different mindset of the customer, and you got to get past that. And not to mention, there's every Tom, Dick, and Harry Dent guy with a trailer screaming free estimates, free, free. The first thing, auto body, auto mechanics, anybody that works with their hands in a trade is already looked down upon in our society, stemming from the education system that we have. So then we throw free. Remember, I work with my hands. My time is unimportant.
Right.
I don't want to put that thought in anybody's head. I won't charge you for an estimate.
People don't know how smart we are.
Well, well, at least how smart I'd like to think I am. But, you know, every day somebody proves that I'm stupid. So it does keep me a little bit humbled. But the free estimates, yeah, I just don't like letting John and Jane Q Public continue to think that because I work with my hands, my time is unimportant. And if they're starting to already believe that my time is unimportant, then they'll think the price of my estimate is wrong. I only have one commodity to sell. I'm not selling my dent tools. The only commodity I have up for sale is my time. My time is my only sale.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I tell everybody that my time has zero value, then how can I justify any estimate that I ever write?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the pervasive problems that our industry has, I believe, is that from day one, when we got our tools in our hands and started selling our service or our time, is we are training our customers from day one. And there's a lot of guys who started training their customers, even now to this day, even as a 20-year, 25, 23, 28-year tech, we are training our customers for the future. That's just how it is. And that's why we were having a hard time getting a few of these fees that we're going to talk about from the insurance company. And my suggestion to the local shop was, hey, even if they say no every single time, I want you guys to put that fee in that estimate because you are training them for next hail catastrophe. And if you start asking them for every one of those fees and let them say no to every single one, the next time it hails and that fee shows up in your estimate, they're going to know that you're serious and that you're not kidding around. This is how we do it, period. We're going to ask for it every time, and the worst you can do is say no.
Here's a great example. I shared this, Paul, before you popped on. But here's a prime example. I'm working in rural Wyoming. The local guy, I moved him over. Actually, I'm working for the man that trained me into PDR 14 years ago.
Nice.
I moved him over into Mobile Tech RX 2 years ago, and we moved him off of the laptop using Mitchell Ultramate. And we always, from the moment I started with him, I moved him on to Mitchell. I came out of the auto body world. I've been in auto body since 1990. I moved him right into Mitchell, and we started writing on that laptop. And I hammered on proper estimating. Make sure you put everything in there. So he thought he had this down. And with Mobile Tech and the miscellaneous page and a lot of those fees, he was like, man, I wrote a solid estimate. I got this thing. All the numbers, there isn't another penny left on the table on this thing. Well, it's for farmers. We're in a retail shop. Farmers comes through the door initially on a phone call and says, we're not paying off of that matrix. They're using the Mobile Tech RX standard matrix. And farmer says, we're not paying off that matrix, period. An adjuster will be there tomorrow. Well, immediately the fight was on. They started exactly what you were talking about earlier. You might not be talking fight, but you come in acting like you're fighting.
Right.
So Chad, he gets mad. He takes his estimate. He starts rewriting it. He starts looking this whole avalanche over. He starts getting a little bit closer. Wait a second. I didn't charge for an edge of panel dent on these two. They're right there on the edge. There was $40. There was $40. I didn't charge for glue sticks. I didn't charge for mark, circle, and clean and photo. I didn't charge my estimating fee. Boom. By the time he got all done, he racked that estimate another $600 with legitimate charges. So then today, Farmers comes through the door with their adjuster, and he's like, what's this? The first one I got is $4,700, and now you hit me with $5,200? What? And he says, well, which one don't you agree with? And the guy's, well, what do you want to do?
Argument. Yeah, no argument.
Yeah.
Nope.
No, nothing. There was nothing left, and they just ended up paying it.
The higher one,
And he got
right?
yeah. He got the higher one because all of that stuff that you were talking about, Paul, the admin fee, storage fee, all of that stuff. It's not in our thought process, and that's why it got put in the back of Mobile Tech RX to get people seeing it. Vince, right before this started, you and I went through that list, and you started adding some dollar amounts there.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you,
you see it, you start charging for it, and your profit is back where you wanted it to be. The Matrix, the Matrix, but all of those additional charges,
Right.
The Matrix is the Matrix.
So I'll tell you what I liken it to is if those of you who are familiar with, and Daniel will understand this, the Precedent feature, and Vince will know this too. When you use Precedent in Mobile Tech RX and you click that Factors tab to look for all of the things that may be affecting that dent repair. If you're a Hail guy and you're using Mobile Tech RX, then your miscellaneous fees are like your Factors tab. It's
Sure,
like
right.
all those little things that are affecting the completion of a high quality repair and estimate, and all that stuff counts. I mean, listen, I watched a shop pay extra people that they brought in just to process claims. I'm sorry, but there is a very valid reason why an administrative fee is necessary, or a processing fee. That
it's
is
a full-time
necessary.
job.
It is absolutely a full-time job. There were probably 3 people up in the front office just handling customers and claims. That's just that. Then you add to the fact that you need guys who are estimating cars where I can't tell you how many hours I spent circling cars just to take pictures of them to send them to the insurance company.
Absolutely.
I mean, that takes a lot of time.
It does.
So those miscellaneous charges are like your Precedent Factors list. So if you're a Hail guy and you're not utilizing that, then you are truly potentially leaving them a lot of money on the table. And if you want to get to the point where they start paying that, then you need to start doing that now and training your customers, whoever that is, to expect that for the future.
Perfect. Now let me ask you this question, because I've always been interested in this, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about it. How do you schedule these people? So you got all these people coming in, and everybody wants their car done now, of course, right? So is it first come, first serve? How do you schedule all this?
Well, I can handle the first part of this. I mean, I've been chasing Hail 14 years doing, I always do retail and body shops. I don't do any wholesale gigs. Ultimately, at the very beginning of the storm, it's first come, first serve. You need to get the people in the door. You need to get your guys working. Everybody needs to get going. But what I've always ended up tailoring it down to was after a couple of weeks, you know what your crew can produce. So you kind of schedule the jobs around by looking at that estimate and that dollar amount on that estimate, basically the labor involved in that estimate. And you can tailor that around so your guys can maintain that high daily average every single day.
Okay.
And
the
longest I've run that is 10 months.
I want you to give me a working example. So let's say the estimate's $5,000. Okay. How long are you putting one guy on that car? Are you putting 2 guys?
It really depends on upon your storm, but really a $5,000 car, they brought me nothing but an F-150 shell. It is literally the shell of a truck, but there is 700 oversized dents on the roof that I'm going to do as a push for paint. The paint is broke on the bottom of the roof panel. Man. I mean, I did a push for paint on the rail, and the hail cracked the paint on the rail in 4 locations. And honestly, wow. Daniel, I was so fixated on that rail that I beat that thing out with hot glue, brother. I was doing 4-inch dents on an F-150 rail. Okay, that rail is only 1.5 inches wide. They were 4 inches wide. The hail was that big.
Wow.
And I was pulling those with hot glue.
That's
And
crazy.
for anybody listening, this is a quad cab, so it's got the clamshell door in the back. Everything from the body line down on the cab corner is wide open.
Huh.
Wide
So-
open. You can put a tool on it.
Just to put some clarity to this, John, you're in a body shop and you're writing retail with the standard matrix, correct?
No, I am in a retail PDR only shop.
Gotcha.
And-
And are you using the standard matrix?
Yes, this
Awesome.
company uses the standard matrix. Now, I can say this. I work in other locations for this very same company, and we only use the DRP. So, and I know this has been a hot topic going all over the Facebook. So, no, even as an owner of Mobile Tech RX, I do not always use the standard matrix. It is market dependent, and there are
Right.
some markets that everybody, even the local people, won't go for it. I
Well,
mean,
let me
it just-
ask you this, guys.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Paul and John, let me ask you this, because this came across. I had a phone call today from Texas from a technician, and he had a Ferrari F430, and he initially was calling me to find out access and how easy it was to work on the vehicle. And I informed him of that, and then he asked me, how much more he should write the car up because it's an exotic. It's a $180,000 car. I'm like, well, you should
That's
probably call Paul.
Okay.
Paul's question.
Well, actually,
Is that what you told him?
actually
No.
that is actually a Paul and Mobile Tech RX thing. If you'll notice in the update before last, there was a specialty car matrix that is now in Mobile Tech RX.
Really? I got to
That was
call
a
him then and let
collaboration.
him know.
Yep, that was a collaboration between Paul and Eric. They sat down and put together a specialty car matrix. You're not going to use it on a Toyota Yaris. I'm throwing that out there, folks. Yeah, I mean, Paul, you can help me here. I don't have it in front of me, but dime size dent starts at 250.
Dime size starts at 250, I believe is right.
Don't you just take it to conventional and write it for that?
Well,
When you're doing a
That's-
Bentley, a Ferrari, you're doing a car that's in the high 6-digit category, 150,000 plus. You're not going to hit conventional.
no, you're talking. So I've been in a Ferrari and Lamborghini shop where a customer had rented a car, smashed it into a wall while they rented it on a Lamborghini, and the panel, just the fender, was like $10,000.
Yeah.
Then you had all the labor that went along with it and all the refinish time and everything.
Oh, sure.
So we're talking about sky high numbers here.
Okay.
you know?
So I'm in the Hail Matrix right now. So if I go down to
Hit the
specialty,
list.
right?
Special.
Okay,
Yep.
got it.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, if you really want to challenge this, ask an adjuster who's using CCC, ADP, Mitchell. It doesn't matter. Have them bring up a Bentley. Have them bring up a Lamborghini.
Can they even do
Have 'em
that?
Bring up no, they cannot.
Exactly.
It's an additional system, and there's only a handful of adjusters that will even have it. And it won't be any adjusters any of us guys see out in the field.
So I'll tell you something that I've never published. I've never made this public, but I was talking to my buddies when over in Idaho, and I had a customer with an Aston.
Straight from Tool Time.
Right, exclusive.
Exclusive.
Nobody in public has ever heard this before, and there's a reason for that. I'll tell you the reason I never posted this, the reason I never talked about it. I've only prior to this moment expressed it to people in private was because I didn't want to get a lot of flack for it. I didn't want people to go, "You're full of crap. This didn't happen." Just a lot of haters that don't want to believe it. But I worked on a quarter panel of an Aston Martin, and the owner, it was a specialty edition, and the owner said, "I don't care how long it takes or how much it costs. I want this fixed, and I don't want to paint it." And I said, "Okay." And I'll tell you the overall size of the damage was 14 inches. And I'll take 3 guesses, one from each of you, as to how much you think I got for that panel.
32.
Okay, next.
I already know the answer.
64.
Okay, next. Don't guess the right answer then. Do you really know the answer, Daniel?
Yeah.
All right, so I got $5,000 for that one panel.
Okay.
$5,000, and what the owner did was he paid it. Actually, I'm trying to remember if he paid in full. I can't remember. He may have written me a check. I can't remember. And then he went back to his insurance for reimbursement. The insurance company called me. The adjuster called me to ask me what it was all about. I explained it to him. I sent him pictures before and after, marks and everything. And he went, okay.
Nice.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So that is my record on a panel on a car, is $5,000 for one dent on a panel. But that just goes to show you, and that's one of many examples, guys. I've done quarter-sized dings on the edge of a Bentley, whatever their big body cars. I can't remember what the name of it is right now. And that's $1,000, $1,050 repair.
Guys out there kicking themselves right now.
I'm telling you, you can, those cars are worth that. That customer is there and will pay for that.
Okay, so I just put in 1 to 5 dents, dime size, $250, and then aluminum 25% markup, $6,250. That comes out to $312 for 1 to 5 dime size dents.
That's on the specialty matrix.
On specialty matrix.
That's a
on a
steal.
$10,000 panel. It's an ultimate steal.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's where most people don't realize that the value of those cars and what it costs to actually do those cars conventional. It's nothing compared to a Ford or a Chevy or a Honda. It's a complete different world, and that's why the standard estimating systems don't even include those cars into them. So,
well, and you got one thing that a lot of guys don't take into consideration as well when it comes to vehicles like that. You're taking on a much higher liability by working on that car.
Sure.
So I have Vince, and you and Daniel know this. John, you probably know this. There have been times I worked on, I think it was Charlie Rose's Aston Martin. It was the one from one of the earlier 007 movies. And I pulled paint on his quarter panel. Guess what? I have to pay for that quarter panel to be repainted. And I promise you, I can't get Joey down the street to do it for $400 or $300.
No.
Right?
what did that quarter panel cost?
That panel cost me, I think that one cost me $1,500 or $1,700 to repaint.
Just to refinish.
Just to refinish.
That's no body work.
No body work. The dent was flat.
And
the paint just came off.
Mike Toledo has the best story, right, Vince? That remember he was telling us about the McLaren. Was it a McLaren that he was doing a repair on? And he broke the glass.
Oh yeah, no, it was a Maybach.
Oh, Maybach.
Oh yeah.
And how much was that glass?
It was $4,000 for the glass, and it took a month to get it from Germany.
Yeah, a month to get it.
It had to be. They're not a high production car. What I think Maybach says 1,500 cars produced a year.
Oh.
But so think about that, fellas, guys and gals. If you're working on a car that costs $4,000 and takes 2 months to get a windshield for, and you're doing it for $75,
Yeah.
that could go south. That $75 goes south in a heck of a hurry.
Doesn't get you very far when you got to fix something.
No, not at all. And you know what? Oddly enough, I was on what's Keith and Shane's site.
PDR College?
PDR College. I was on
College.
PDR College today. I'm sorry. I had a brain fart. So I was on PDR College, and some kid on there was talking about doing wholesale work at a high-end dealership and charging $65 a panel or a car. I'm sorry. I'm like, are you kidding me? Oh man, I was cringing.
First time he has to paint one of those panels, it'll be all over with. I think.
But his buddy was the GM. So
yeah,
that's
the most expensive. Yeah. Okay, the most expensive car I've ever fixed was a $500,000 Ferrari 2+2, and they dented it, loading it onto the transport, and we did this down in Lakeway, Texas. That's where I was at with Eric Garves. So Eric and I, we were the third PDR company this place called as they were Google searching, and we get up there and we're like, if we're the third company, why did everybody else turn it down? They don't want to touch this. They claim they don't do classics. We're like, well, get her off the transport, throw her in the shop. Bubba and I are going to beat this baby out and move on with life, And so we tweaked this car out, fixed it up clean. It was a beautiful car, getting ready for auction. And the transport driver's like, oh, thank God, that's a $500,000 car. And we dented it 15 minutes ago. And nobody else would touch it because of the value of the car.
No.
And Eric and I are like, ignorance is bliss, but we made our money, and we weren't shy on the charging either.
No, sure.
I think we even hit them a remote fee for after hours and going to them and getting it taken care of, even though we had a retail location.
I do a Ferrari restoration shop here, and the car start at $1 million, but I don't even blink an eye. It's just metal. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
metal's metal. It's PDR. Just get at it
Yeah.
and get it
It's
done.
usually more about how to get to the friggin' dent on those exotics. It's always a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I will say, I'm here in Wyoming. I don't, if somebody rolls up in a Bentley, they're looking for directions back to civilization.
Yeah. An alien spaceship planted them there.
So
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to be seeing a Paul Kordon Hail estimating seminar in the future.
Hey, if that's what somebody's interested in having me come talk about, I would be, me, I would be thrilled. I would be happy to talk about that. But I'll tell you this. I think there's a lot of room in the industry for better education on estimating. And
Well, the guys
I'll tell
you're working with, Paul,
Yeah.
They're seasoned vets.
Yeah, I think we had between the three guys that were pulling, we had 60, almost 70 years of experience between the three of us.
Well, when I'm pining for is I'd like to maybe interview them next to see how much more money they made because of you.
Well, I don't know that, but I'll tell you, just for everybody's knowledge or awareness, coming down the pipe, we're working together. I'm working on a new endeavor. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give it away yet. I'm not ready to kind of launch it, but we're working on a new endeavor that is going to be in the estimating and negotiating field for other PDR companies that are out there that need help with that. Those who just either don't know what to do because of genuine ignorance, or they don't have the time to be that person for their people. They can call me in and we can set something up like that. So stay tuned for News at 11 on that. But yes, there is a lot of room, I believe, Daniel, not only in the retail, but now I'm also seeing firsthand in the Hail world, there's still a lot of room for further education, and guys like John, you know that you've seen it, you've produced it. I'm now seeing that what is possible and what I've been able to produce. And I think it can only get even better. But I know there's a lot of guys out there that are complaining that they can't make money in the Hail world. And I'm kind of looking at it going, I'm not sure if I agree with that,
If you want to see how far it goes, on my phone, I don't get a lot of notifications on my phone, but I get to see every new sign up for Mobile Tech RX. Everybody that signs up, their email address will pop across my screen. You know what I've been seeing a lot more of the last 8-9 months?
Dent
Body
Wizard.
shops.
Nice. Body shops. Oh, you're supposed to let us
So
guess.
close.
Come on.
So close. Body shops. You know why?
Wow.
And when I talked to him on the phone, we didn't know what we were missing.
Yep.
When we look at your system, we see the upcharges and they're logical. Edge of panel,
Right.
double oversized, extreme oversized, all of these things. And they think CCC, Mitchell, or ADP has been hiding costs from them. They're like, how come we didn't know this? These cars are so much more advanced today. The old school 4 don't apply for every car.
Yeah.
The old school 1996 Matrix out there, the 4 add-ons do not apply to an Audi A8, an F-150, are all F-Series trucks now.
Yeah.
The Expedition is going all aluminum. None of that stuff applied to these cars.
Well, I'll take you even a step further. I believe, and this is a hunch that I have, I think it's a relatively educated hunch, that the body shops actually like it better when a PDR company comes in and charges more for their work for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're ignorant and they really don't know. Number two, it justifies to them what they've been saying all along, in that they need their prices to be at a certain level. So it justifies their own work and their own business, and therefore they go, yeah, I want that. And then if they're making, 10, 20, 25% on a Hail company, they're going, well, that's 25% more of a higher number.
Oh, sure.
25% more of a higher number, and that's what they want.
Absolutely.
So that's my guess. I'll tell you one last thing, because I know we're coming up on time here, is one thing I want to mention is something that I did, and I've done this before as a retail guy with a Hail situation, but now I've done it in a Hail catastrophe situation. We had a deck lid that had about $600 worth of Hail on it, and it had one dent that was about 5 inches in diameter. Okay. And I treated that one over extreme, I called it extreme dent, as its own charge. And what I did was I took when I was in the Hail Matrix, I went back to services and I clicked on price a dent. I drew a circle around that thing. I put a measuring tool on the panel. I wrote extreme dent and deep, 5 inches, and I clicked that into the price a dent system, and it gave me a price of about $437.50 for that 1 5-inch hail dent.
Wow.
Submitted it to the insurance company. So we had over $1,000 of hail on this, written up on this deck lid, and 437 of that was a single dent, and we got it approved.
Fantastic.
And I have gotten that approved in the retail shop twice before. This was the first time in a hail scenario that we got it approved. And I just want people to know that you can't keep doing double and triple oversize. At some point, you've got to go, this is ridiculous. This is a 5-inch dent. There's a different way to estimate that. And I recommend to everybody go to the retail matrix or the retail dent chart for that. The price.
Why isn't that adjuster then going, hey, I can paint that for this price as their argument?
Because that depends on the color of the car. Once you to say silver, they're not going to panel paint that. They're going to blend the quarters. So to blend the quarters, you're going to pull the wheel trim. You're going to pull the mud guard. You're going to pull the bumper cover. You're going to pull the tail lights. You're going to have to specialty wrap the back glass or remove the back glass. Then you have to specialty mask the door jambs because you're going up and over on the rails. A trunk lid starts adding up into painting half a car in a quick hurry. But Paul, you bringing that up reinforced. I brought that up at the Mega Media event. And I used an example last year in Dallas. I was using the price a dent feature on roofs on the dents that I was shrinking with the Big Dent Machine Power PDR box. I write those completely separate using price a dent. And I got $900 for a single dent on the roof over and above the hail.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you, not only do we have the tools to justify, Daniel, that in answer to your question, why would they do that? We can justify why we're asking for that. But number two, I would say that many of us don't get those prices because we simply don't ask. We assume. We negotiate with ourselves in our heads, and then we assume that we know the answer. And guess what? If we never ask the insurance company for it, we never give them the opportunity to say yes. And in this case, we tried the same approach on 2 different panels. One was a hood of a Civic, and the other one was a deck lid of a, I don't remember, a Camry or something. And we won. They gave it to us on the Camry, and they told us on the hood of the Civic our price was too high, and they needed to replace it. And we were like, no problem, replace it. We're good.
Yep.
But same scenario, 5-inch dent in the hood. So, but yeah, if you guys as hail chasers out there don't know that or aren't aware of that, haven't tried that, I would encourage you to try that because it's going to up your ticket, and use that off matrix button as often as possible.
And don't be afraid to put a big number on a panel. I had them pull back just a crushed car on me, destroyed, not repairable even in the slightest little bit. And they were just being a bunch of smartasses. They're like, how much to fix this car? So I walked around it. I looked at it. I looked it over. I looked every panel. And then I hit them at $45,000.
Oh,
car probably only booked. Yeah, the car only booked for like $6,000. But they just looked at me with this dumbfounded look in their eye and got in the car and drove off. And the mechanic was standing next to me and he says, how were you going to fix that car even at $45,000? And I said I was going to pull the radiator cap and drive a fresh one under it. But the reason why I did that number was because the next time, if I only told them $22,000, it would seem cheap.
Yeah.
So if somebody asks me on something, I will throw out the most outlandish number. Those that you've seen me do that on Facebook think I'm joking. No, I'm not. The reason being is the body shops, adjusters, everybody thinks PDR and cheap. 4 or 5 digit figure. And they're like, yeah, no. But next time when you do bring something in and you run it through precedent and you come up with $1,400 or $1,500 and you told them $4,000 on everything else.
Yeah.
Well, John, you just proved it. You and I can be friends. We think alike. So I'm sure there'll be another time, but I have a little trick that I can reveal to you on that stuff too and why that works. But we'll talk about it another time.
We will. And that brings us to the end of our podcast. And I want to thank the great Paul Kordon for coming on and gracing us with his presence.
Come on.
We're not worthy.
Yeah. You're a modest guy. We know.
Thanks for coming on.
Hey, man, it's my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all that you guys do for the industry.
Sure. And as everyone knows, we're going to have Paul on again, and we'll revisit this. Right now, you guys should be gearing up for your Texas hailstorm that just hit, and getting those numbers up and taking this advice to heart and using Mobile Tech RX and getting the maximum out of your repairs.
And make more money.
Make more money.
That's right.
With that, Daniel, what do you got to say?
Guys, you also have to, get the latest and greatest tools. Go out and buy yourself a Carbon Tech hail rod and level up those tools.
John?
Don't do stupid stuff like bid cheap.
And join the revolution.